I'm speaking to account executives today. So if you're a website provider, if you're digital advertising, a CDP account executive, whatever you are, I really would strongly encourage you to take a good hard look at what you're providing as a level of service to your customer, to the dealer clientele, whatever clientele it is, boat, motorcycle, cars, whatever it is, airplanes, whatever it may be. Reading through the data, reading through the metrics is not what we get paid to do as account executives. It's just not. That's not what you get paid to do. What you do get paid for is to offer your expertise on what the data and metrics tell you. So unless that's what you're coming to the meeting with is, I'm seeing this campaign is underperforming a little bit, or I'm seeing this page on your website isn't getting any traffic, let's pivot and move it over, change it up to this type of page. So we have 2 trade pages, we should have 1 trade page. We are not getting a whole lot of traffic on that CTA. For the website, I say we change up the verbiage a little bit. Unless you're coming into the meeting prepped to have those kind of conversations, you should have just sent an email. Stop wasting your dealer's time. So I talk about this a little bit in my consulting book, but I definitely got asked about it the other day about the client had really appreciated the insight that I have. It's not just about the data and the metrics, the insight that I had and the moves I would make if it were my store. So I treat all of my clients like if this were my store, this is what I would do. So you have to look at it from that aspect of it, because you want to be a good steward of their money. You want to be a good steward of the amount of the budget that you have for them, that they're spending on whatever product that you have, whether it be digital advertising or whatever it may be, paid social, whatever it may be. So in reading between the lines, being able to understand the story that the data is telling you, that's really key. You have to understand what the data is telling you so that you can then pivot when you need to pivot. So for example, today I was looking at a store. It's a brand new store for me, brand new account. I know the people at the store, but it's a brand new account. And one of the things I noticed is we had a pretty standard build for the OEM that we had. It was Mazda, and the standard build is low funnel, high funnel, mid funnel on every single type of campaign. I don't see the conversions. Now I have 4 weeks worth of data. So granted, I don't have, the full 90 days worth of data, but I have 4 weeks worth of data, and the high funnel campaigns had altogether of all the models we had maybe 3 conversions altogether. The mid funnel campaigns were a little bit better, but the CPC was still really high. So what we opted to do was to kill the mid-funnel and high-funnel model campaigns. And then the make campaign, we opted to keep one of the make campaigns, the mid-funnel, and kill the high-funnel campaign. The reason we decided to do that, now I understand there's different keywords and triggers with those campaigns. However, with that particular brand, they do a particularly good job at tier 1 and tier 2 of driving traffic, of creating demand in their product. So I'm not entirely worried about, creating a tier 1 or tier 2 strategy where we're trying to be in the consideration set for purchase of that model, because it's just that's not an issue for that particular brand. So that's what I mean by being able to read the data and being able to understand the story the data is trying to tell you. So if you can't do that, then you are really doing a disservice to your clients, because that's what they're paying for. The last thing that your clients want to do is to sit in a freaking another Zoom meeting where all someone is regurgitating data at them. So you have to keep those data points. You have to be able to understand them. You can't just, your impression share was this, and your clicks were that, and you grew your impression share. That's all great. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but you also have to understand what that means. So I'm seeing here that your competition is actually over the last 3 weeks, and then if I look the last 3 months, they're actually stepping up the spend in this particular campaign. So I think we need to match them toe to toe, because it looks like they're ramping up that they're getting some ramp up on this particular campaign. We probably need to influx some budget in here. But this other campaign, that seems to be what the opposite effect is. So we can reallocate it from there, or we can add. Same thing if you're talking about email campaigns, if you're working with a CDP provider. If you're not paying attention to digital advertising, social media advertising, and the metrics in there, and what's going on in the community too, you're going to do yourself a disservice by not being able to bring those ideas to the table for the store. So for example, if I worked at a CDP company and I had a store in New Mexico right now, the only thing I would be sending out to my customers is that we are offering discounts on windshield wiper blades, tires, brake cleaning, engine cleaning, cabin air filters, and engine air filters. That's what I would be sending out to my stores right now, because the dust storms through there have been horrific. So that's what I would be offering to them to keep your car in top working shape. We're offering an engine cleaning service that's free with every oil change, or $25, whatever it costs you. I don't know what that would cost you, but whatever it costs you, that would go over very, very well into an email, text, or co-video campaign, or whatever you have in your own CDP. In addition to that, you need to be having these things as recommendations in your back pocket as you're advancing through your meeting. So for me, I'm meeting heavy. I am the first one to admit it. I have weekly meetings with too many stores. I have bi-weekly meetings with too many stores. I do. But it's because I like to be in the trenches. I like to be dealer facing. I like to be where I can get a good grasp of what's going on in the market. So I know what the focus models are for my store. I know where their pressures lie. I know that my Mazda store that I just worked on today actually has 12 CX-50s on the lot, and they're getting 20 more coming down the pipeline within the next 30 days. So I know we need to pause out the CX-90 campaign we had running, and we need to ramp up the CX-50 campaign we're running. So when those hit the lot, hopefully we've got some traction on the ones that are there, so that the new ones can come in and they have interest on them as well. That's what I'm saying. Telling the story with the database points that I've ingested and being able to offer that expert level advice. So it goes back to the story about the guy who worked on those giant ships and was like 1900 and something, I forget what, but he was a repairman for the rudders on these giant ships, and they worked on this. They couldn't get this rudder, was frozen. They couldn't get it to move. This people who built the ship and couldn't figure out what was going on, and they were trying to move it, and they finally said, oh, someone's got to call this guy who's an expert with the engines and the rudders, and he'll figure it out. Called the guy. He came out, he literally looked at it for like 3 minutes, banged on one part of it, and the rudder started moving. And he's like, okay, that'll be $5,000, please. And they're like, what? What do you mean? What's $5,000? You were here for 5 minutes. And he goes, you're not paying me for 5 minutes. You're paying me for the 35 years it took me to learn that it takes 5 minutes, and that's what you do to fix it. That's the same thing that we are as account executives, same mentality we should be bringing to the table. The level of expertise we have based on the number of accounts we have, we know what works, what doesn't work. We should be bringing that accountability and those ideas to the table for the consulting type approach. This is how you take this tool that you've trusted to me to make work at max efficiency for you. These are the steps you need to take to move it to the next level. This is another pivot that we need to make sure the max efficiencies is here. Make sure you're working in that SME mode, that subject matter expert mode, so that when your stores, because your stores could go anywhere to get the news read to them. If they just wanted to read the metrics, they could probably figure out how to build the campaigns themselves. But they're entrusting to you because you need to be the subject matter expert. And if you're not, you need to be. Go watch, listen to other AEs calls, find out what you like, what you don't like, make it your own. But we need to own that ability to look at the data and tell our dealers the story, to be that subject matter expert that they trust to do the best we can for max efficiencies and get them the most return that we can on the amount of money they have to spend, whatever their budget is. So that's all I got for this week. Happy selling.